Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. This is JD, and you are watching the Figgy Pop Collector channel. And today we have a very special episode. We're going to be looking at my favorite 10 Thanksgiving episodes of some classic TV shows. So, without further ado, let's get into my list.
Starting transmission.
All right, so kind of give you some ground rules for how I'm going to be doing my favorite 10 episodes. Again, these are in no particular order. I actually put them in order based on when they actually came out. And I'm also going to be staying away from any hour-long TV shows. I just didn't have time to watch that many TV shows. So I'm pretty much going to be sticking with TV show sitcoms and some animated shows, some, stuff like that for my top 10 list. And again, these are my opinion on my favorite Thanksgiving episodes. I will have kind of, how would you say, some honorable mentions in here. So I think that's pretty much all the rules here. With that being said, let's go ahead and let's take a look at my 10 favorite Thanksgiving Day TV show episodes. So first up, from 1973. Now this is a very much a classic Thanksgiving Day episode that played on TV for many years while I was growing up, and that is A Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. So this Charlie Brown TV special was actually the third one produced. The first one being A Charlie Brown Christmas, the second one being The Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. So A Charlie Brown Thanksgiving is actually the third one. And what's really interesting about this one isn't based off any of the old comic strips. And it's an original story. That kind of makes it a little more special. Unfortunately, to me, this one does get lost. And I don't think that a lot of people talk about this special because it is a special about what being thankful for, what to be, when you don't have everything. It's the idea of Friendsgiving in a weird way. It all kind of stems from this one episode. So just kind of run off the bat right here. The episode starts with a very much classic Lucy pulling the football away as Charlie Brown is running and trying to kick the ball. And she pulls the ball away at the last minute, and boom, Charlie Brown falls on his back. Very much a classic Peanuts opening. So then from here on, we go into the actual storyline. So what the storyline for this episode is that Peppermint Patty's dad can no longer be there for Thanksgiving. And Peppermint Patty's pretty much upset by this. So she calls Charlie Brown and pretty much invites her over to his Thanksgiving. But there's a problem. Charlie is not going to be at his house for Thanksgiving. His family is actually going to their grandmother's for Thanksgiving dinner. So Charlie doesn't know how to tell Peppermint Patty, no, you can't come over to my house for Thanksgiving. It's really sad to think about because her dad, he's an only parent and he's going to be out of town for Thanksgiving. So Peppermint Patty has nobody to have Thanksgiving with. If you think about it, that's really sad to think about. So Peppermint Patty recruits some of her friends, to go with her to Charlie Brown's house for Thanksgiving. Well, Charlie Brown and Linus come up with a brilliant idea that, hey, we'll just throw a Friendsgiving type of thing where we'll celebrate Thanksgiving with what we can bring and what we can make. So they pretty much have like toast, jelly beans, pretzels, popcorn, stuff like that for their Thanksgiving Day meal. It's a potluck, say. Oh my goodness, but then Peppermint Patty gets very much upset by this. She wanted a traditional Thanksgiving, with the turkey, mashed potatoes, and all that stuff. And she is so upset with Charlie Brown because she wasn't able to get this. And Charlie Brown pretty much gets upset by this and, kind of goes away. It takes Marcy to be the voice of reasoning in the situation and basically tells Peppermint Patty that, you know what? He did everything he can to make you happy and to have a very much a fun Thanksgiving. And you just poo-pooed it, basically. Peppermint Patty, comes to her wits and basically says, I'm so sorry, Charlie Brown, all this and that. And you know what? And then Charlie Brown magically invites all his friends to come with him to his grandmother's house for Thanksgiving. So while I was doing the rewatch of this episode, I did have many questions about why the grandmother had all his friends come over Thanksgiving. And I was like, oh, that happens, when you're in college and stuff like that, you do go to your friend's house for Thanksgiving. But then I realized they're all kids. And I'm like, wait a minute, where are these kids' parents? Where are Peppermint Patty's parents? What? Why is she by herself on Thanksgiving dinner on Thanksgiving Thursday? Where are all their kids? Where are their parents? And why aren't they around to be there? And they're okay with them all going to Charlie Brown's grandmother's house for Thanksgiving. It's very strange. But you know what though? This is a classic episode of friendships, of, the true meaning of Thanksgiving, being thankful for everything you do have. And this is a good way to start the segment by just talking about what you're being thankful for. So if you've never seen a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, I would say go ahead and check this one out. It is streaming, I believe, on Apple Plus. So if you don't have Apple Plus, I do stream it free every once in a while online or in different places. Like I said, this is a classic and it's the oldest one here on my list. So let's go ahead and jump on over to. So coming in at number 2 and probably the saddest episode on this Thanksgiving Day list, and that is Full House's The Miracle of Thanksgiving. This is from season 1, episode 9. And this episode is actually the very first Thanksgiving Day episode for Full House. So to jump into the episode, this is going to be the very first Thanksgiving for the Tanner family since the matriarch died. So Pam, who is Danny's wife and Jesse's sister, had passed away a year ago. So this is the very first Thanksgiving they're having since she passed away. And they want to make this Thanksgiving Day so much special for the girls, but there's a situation. Grandma Tanner is not able to make it to the family function and won't be able to cook for the family. So they have to break to the kids that, you know what, we're not going to be able to make Thanksgiving dinner. So we're going to have to go basically to a nice restaurant and do Thanksgiving there. You know how that turns out. So what ends up happening here is that DJ and Stephanie decide they're going to help make Thanksgiving. They remember all the recipes that their mom used to cook, and they got this. They'll help out, and we'll get Thanksgiving going. And you know what? For pretty much the episode, they really much pull it off. They get Thanksgiving cooked, they get all the sides done, they get the pie done, the turkey done. Well, not exactly. As they're about to sit down for dinner, it turns out the turkey was frozen still. Ah. So the guys trying to be nice do not want to tell DJ that the turkey is still frozen. So Danny puts it back in the oven and says, we're going to let it cook a little longer. Meanwhile, ding dong, the doorbell rings and there's 2 girls there who are looking for their uncle's house, I think it was. And they have the wrong house, of course. They also have a turkey with them. So by a miracle, they also have a cooked turkey and ready to go. So this is pretty much where they send the girls off. So basically, Jesse and Danny try to buy the turkey from these 2 girls and it doesn't work out for them. The girls end up leaving and the turkey that they put back in the oven catches on fire and burns. And then they drop the pumpkin pie. Oh my God, it's just chaos ensues. And DJ and Stephanie feel like they failed, you know, and they're upset because, it's the first Thanksgiving they had without their mom. They're sad, they're depressed. Danny follows DJ to her room and they have a heart to heart talk about the whole situation. And Danny tells her that, it's okay, things happen. We just push through and all that stuff. Meanwhile, Stephanie and Jesse are talking. Uncle Jesse is telling her the story, like some of the stories about their mom from when they were little, and some of the chaos they went through. And pretty much the 2 kids decide, okay, we can still save this. Let's go back and redo what we need to do, and we'll kind of save what we can for Thanksgiving. Well, this is where the episode kind of gets really depressing and sad because as they're leaving Uncle Jesse's room, Danny sees he had opened the photo album with all the photos of him and his sister. And Danny goes, you know what? I didn't realize how much Pam looked like the girls. And Uncle Jesse gets upset and goes, hey, yeah. He closes the book and leaves. And he goes, okay, let's go. Let's go get some food. And Danny's like, I didn't realize that. I'm so focused on the girls and me, not having my wife here for Thanksgiving and the girls not having their mom here for Thanksgiving, that I forgot that you had more Thanksgiving with Pam as her little brother. And then it pretty much gets to an emotional part of the episode where he's upset, he's crying, and he's like,
"When's it gonna stop hurting, man?" I keep thinking the pain's gonna go away, but it doesn't. When I see pictures or I think of her, I get this feeling, this
Danny tells him it's going to be okay. It probably never go away or anytime soon anyways. And they reconcile and they go downstairs and they go have Thanksgiving dinner. And by the miracle of Thanksgiving, da, 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 if you get that reference from this episode, good on you. All right. So then pretty much that's where that wraps up the episode. And this is a very much a heartfelt episode, a very traditional Thanksgiving Day episode. where we're learning about family, being there together. Some things are going to go wrong. Pretty much cliches that you'll see throughout many of these TV show episodes as we go through them. The craziness, the things falling down, things breaking, things getting destroyed, and this is going to be kind of be a recurring theme as we go through these episodes. All right, let's go on to the next episode. So coming from 1990, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air's Thanksgiving Day episode, The Talking Turkey. This one's actually from season 1 of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We have Will Smith's mom coming to LA to have Thanksgiving with Aunt Viv and the rest of the Banks family. And when she gets there, she is pretty much upset with Will Smith and how he's pretty much is being spoiled here at the Banks house. You know what? She doesn't like the fact the kids call around the Jeffrey the butler. They don't, having people do the gardening, people doing the cooking, and just, kind of being pampered. And she doesn't like this. And she basically starts making Will do a lot of the chores around the house, helping to get her luggage upstairs, doing the yard work, stuff like that. So Aunt Viv basically goes, you know what? You're right. We'll have the kids cook Thanksgiving dinner. And then, of course, chaos ensues as they're cooking dinner. They're making mistakes and they're making the gravy wrong. They're making the stuffing wrong. The turkey's too dry. Everything can go wrong goes wrong. Meanwhile, Carlton has his teacher there at Thanksgiving dinner because he's trying to stick up to the teacher to get an A in the class, and that's all going wrong too. Oh my god, it's just crazy and it's chaotic and it's I don't know. It's such a fun time. If this is like I said, just a very much a classic trope because the way the episode ends and it's kind of the lesson of the story is that Aunt Vivian realizes, yes, she's letting her kids get away with too much, and they are a little too pampered. They're a little spoiled, should I say. And she realizes, you know what, you're right. We didn't grow up with money, and we had to work for our stuff. And her kids have now no longer have that. They don't learn that lesson, and they're kind of spoiled. They let everybody do everything for them. So she goes, you know what, you're right. I should have the kids do more things around the house, and they need to be able to learn some street smarts, learn some skills to live life. And that's kind of how we end the episode. And you know what? That's very much a heartfelt, touching message right there. And it's probably why I really do like this episode. It's not my favorite of the Fresh Prince episodes, but you know what though? This is a classic episode from the 90s. And if you've never seen this one, I say, hey, gotta check this one out too. All right, let's go on to my next episode. Next up, from 1994, we have the Home Improvement episodes from season 4, episode 9, My Dinner with Wilson. This isn't your typical Thanksgiving Day episode, but it takes place on Thanksgiving. To give you a little plot summary for the episode, essentially what happens is an appraiser shows up at Taylor's house and actually has the wrong address. They were actually looking for Wilson's house. And this pretty much makes Tim and Joe kind of worried for Wilson. Like, you think, oh my God, is Wilson moving? Is he refinancing his house? What's going on? So at Thanksgiving dinner, which is probably our first time being in Wilson's house, and it's a crazy house. Oh my goodness, all the different stuff. And then he also has the whole room decorated like historically accurate Thanksgiving Day attire, like stuff that would be historically accurate to Thanksgiving. It's so much fun. It's so silly, goofy. But you know what? It's classic Mr. Wilson. So that's going on. So we have that. And he also has all like he's like preparing like a classic Thanksgiving Day meal. So it's all food that they would have eaten back during the very first Thanksgiving. So or inspired by the meals they would have eaten at the very first Thanksgiving. So we get that whole meal. And then we find out that Wilson is planning on moving away. He plans on moving to Ecuador because he had promised his wife, who had passed away, that on their silver anniversary, he would go back to the place where they first met. And so he's planning on moving to Ecuador in that case. And that's pretty much where the Thanksgiving portion of the episode ends. Pretty much after that, we meet some of the people that are looking to buying the house. And we get our first time, or like a role reversal between Wilson and Tim, where Tim is the one giving the advice to Wilson. So Wilson's having doubts about moving to Ecuador. He doesn't really want to, and he loves the people he's around. So he's having second thoughts. And it's basically up to Tim to let him know that, there's other ways they can honor his wife than just getting up and moving to Ecuador because he doesn't really want to do that. So, and that's where it comes down to the episode. Yep, like I said, this is very much a very different episode, but it is a very much a classic episode of Home Improvement. It's a very Wilson centric episode. We get a lot of backstory from Wilson we hadn't heard in the first three seasons. So that's really cool to get some of them more of the backstory. And you learn a little bit more about who he is and his relationship with Tim and Jill. So we get our first photo of his wife that passed away, which is really funny because it's actually just Patricia Richardson who plays Jill. It's actually just her in a wig, and they have her face since Wilson has his face always covered. His wife also has her face covered, and that's who's playing his wife in that photo. I don't know. It's kind of silly. It's goofy, but you know what though? I really do enjoy this one because it's a story of loss and trying to come to terms with that, and once you build a new life, do you still how do you honor the past by not just upending your life and moving away? And I think that's what Wilson's going through because he, like you said, he wants to honor his late wife, but he also wants to honor who he is now. So he's struggling with that. And in the end, he does come to terms with it, ends up staying there. So that is one of the few Thanksgiving Day episodes that Home Improvement had. All right, let's go on to the next TV show. Next up from 1996, we have Boy Meets World, Season 4, Episode 10. All right, so this one, honestly, this is probably, we're trying to get into more of the serious side of Thanksgiving, but in a roundabout way. So this episode is basically about the haves and have-nots, how two different classes enjoy Thanksgiving. So the episode starts off with Mr. Feeney giving a history lesson on the conflict that's going in Rwanda between the different classes in Rwanda and how those tensions raised and everything like that. And he assigns a homework assignment to everybody in the class for the Thanksgiving break to write an essay about how class and the class struggles are seen in today's world. And that's a very deep message right there. So in this episode, what ends up happening is that Corey and Sean decide to have Thanksgiving together. Because to them, there is no class separation in Philadelphia. I guess if you could say that in a weird way. But I guess, from a Disney show, kind of right there. But so what ends up happening is they decide to have the Thanksgiving dinner at Sean's trailer park. So Corey and his family ends up going to the trailer park. Both families are not happy about this. So at the very beginning, you already know they're very much upset by this. They think that you shouldn't mix classes together. They're the aristocrats, they call them. And, they're not aristocrats for the hunters. So, there's already conflict there. But like Sean's mom, who this is a very few seasons where we actually have Sean have both his parents. Because I think after this season, he goes to live with Mr. Turner, and then there's a whole other chaos that goes on after that. In addition, we also get Ethan Suplee in this episode. The guy from My Name Is Earl and from all the Kevin Smith movies, who does not look at all like he did back then. It's just crazy when you see him nowadays. But yeah, he's in this episode. He plays somebody that lives in the trailer park, and he actually has his young brother who has a crush on Morgan, and he invited Morgan over to their trailer for pie or dessert after Thanksgiving, since the family is going to be at the trailer park, and everybody in the trailer park knows the Matthews are going to be there. This brings me up to the weirdest point in here. Everybody uses that back door and knocks on it to see who's there. Nobody really ever uses the front door of the house. They're always going to the backyard and knocking on the backyard door. What? What? Nobody thinks about that. It's just so strange. It's so crazy and weird and strange. It's just a weird and strange thing I noticed that nobody was using the front door. They just barge on in from the back door too. It's like, what? These guys just came in out of nowhere. And the Matthews don't really know who Ethan Suplee's character is really. They know him as the bully that picked on them in school, but that's pretty much it. Anyways, so we come to the actual Thanksgiving Day. They're having Thanksgiving at the Hunter's house. And there's already drama going on there. They go to the wrong house. The people are looking down on them in the trailer park. And then while they're inside the Hunter's house, Mrs. Hunter is kind of like trying to show off and try to be like, oh, look, we can be civilized people, I guess you can say. It's so strange. It's so uncomfortable. There's so many weird, uncomfortable jokes here and there. And the families are uncomfortable. The kids are uncomfortable. They all know this. And then all of a sudden, Chad is called outside by the people of the trailer park, and they're upset by this. They believe that the two different classes should never be meshed together. They should be separated, and they tell Chet that he needs to get the Matthews out of the trailer park as soon as possible. And he's like, but come on, they're friends. I can't really kick them out. They're like, no, they must go now. So basically, it comes from there that they rush to get everybody to have Thanksgiving dinner as fast as they can. Um, Sean, Corey, and Eric take Morgan over to Francis's house, the guy who played by Ethan Suplee, and to have Thanksgiving. And then, of course, the Matthews and Hunters, they actually have a sit down conversation, and they kind of go over everything. They know this isn't working out. They're just trying to be there for their kids. They know they're not having a good time. There's just a lot of complications, and these kids tried, but they have to agree that this just isn't working out for them. There's a reason why they're not friends. And they go over to go get Morgan at Francis's trailer, and it's there that the kids are all hanging out and having Thanksgiving, which I thought they were just going for dessert, but they're having a full Thanksgiving Day meal over there at his trailer park with the turkey and all the sides and everything like that. And the kids are all talking about what they're thankful for. And yeah, this is where the Matthews and the Hunters realize that they're the jerks. If their kids can get along and be friends, why can't they? They go over and go, hey, can you have room for one more? And they go sit down and have Thanksgiving with the kids. That's kind of where the episode ends. We get one more little end scene during the credits where we find out that they're getting their essays back. And Mr. Feeney has Sean come up and read his essay. And this is a very powerful episode in that it's talking about the have and have nots and how these two different classes are joined together, how they work together, where their differences and stuff like that, and how sometimes they just don't clash. And then Sean reads his essay. He's talking about how he didn't think any of that was still existed in today's civilized society, but having Thanksgiving, I realized there was. I'm going to read it right here, what he actually wrote, because the very last sentence really struck me.
And the thing that gives me hope is that as long as the children are educated about the dangers of prejudice and intolerance, then perhaps there will be a reason for Thanksgiving in the future.
And that's so true. Learning, being educated, learning about, all this stuff. Our future generations will strive to be better. And that is such a powerful message for a Boy Meets World episode. That really sticks out for me. And that's why I consider this probably one of my favorite episodes. All right, let's go on to the next one. So, coming in from 1998, we have the Friends episode, the one with all the Thanksgivings. This is season 5, episode 8. Now, here is pretty much your classic Thanksgiving Day episode for Friends. And it's probably the most memorable episode, too. So, in this episode, we get a bunch of little short stories about the friends and each of the characters and their Thanksgivings. Because you first start off, that Chandler hates Thanksgiving. Chandler always talks about being the person who has the worst Thanksgiving. Bad luck all around him for every Thanksgiving. He hates Thanksgiving. He boycotts Thanksgiving. And this is no other. So each of the friends decide to see who is the king of misery for Thanksgiving. Ross is upset because he's going through the divorce with Emily at this time, because this is the season after he said Rachel's name at the altar. So, you know what that meant. So, yeah. Yeah, he's not in good shape here, Ross. Nope. So, that's going on here. Phoebe doesn't have a story. She's actually using a story from a past life of during the Secession War. And, during one of the wars, I believe the Civil War, I think that's what it was, that she lost an arm and she was a medic nurse. And they're like, no, Phoebe, we can't choose a past life. What about any of your current stories? And then Joey gives his worst Thanksgiving Day story where he actually put on the turkey head to scare Chandler, and then the turkey head gets stuck on him and he can't get the turkey head off and all, silliness. And this episode actually grosses out my wife the most. She does not like this episode at all. She hates the fact that the characters wear the turkeys on their head. It like really freaks her out, which is so funny. When we go from there, we go to Monica's story. And Monica goes, I don't have a bad Thanksgiving Day story. And Rachel goes, yes, you do. Remember the one when we were younger? And then we get a flashback to Monica's early days. One of the days when Chandler and Ross come back from college, and Chandler kind of makes a joke about Monica's weight.
Stay here. My parents won't mind.
No, it's not that. I just don't want to be stuck here all night with your fat sister.
Hey.
It upsets Monica because Monica actually has a crush on Chandler at the time. And so basically we cut to she's going to get revenge on Chandler. And then she cuts to a year later. She lost all the weight, and everything like that. And she's trying to seduce Chandler. And that goes horribly wrong. And we find out that was when Chandler lost his toe. And when they go to the hospital, she accidentally brings a baby carrot instead of the toe. All hilarity ensues. And we find out that even Chandler's still the king of misery for Thanksgiving. And this is a proof why he hates Thanksgiving. And he ends up going back to his apartment, and Monica ends up putting on the turkey head. And she walks into the room to go cheer him up. And she has the glasses, the fez. Classic Thanksgiving Day, image in your head. It's her wearing the turkey head with the big yellow glasses and the little fez hat. It's funny, hilarious. And this is also the part where Chandler eventually says, I love you to Monica for the first time. And, it's a touching moment, But we do get a lot of history for these characters. We get to see a lot of the backstory for their friends' characters. We see more of why Chandler despises Thanksgiving. I would just say this is probably out of all the Thanksgiving Day episodes, because, Friends is known for their Thanksgiving Day episodes. Out of all their episodes, this is by far my favorite. And I would say the best Thanksgiving Day episode out of their entire 10-year run. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree with me on that one? If you do, let me know in the comment section down below. And let's move on to our next TV show episode. Coming in from 2007, we have How I Met Your Mother, Season 3, Episode 9, Slapsgiving. Now, this is probably the beginning of probably my favorite run of episodes in the How I Met Your Mother series. I know the show hasn't really aged well. Most people really dismiss the show. Not a lot of people like this show. But you know what? Growing up, this is one of my favorite shows to watch in college. And this episode is just classic in so many different ways. So, giving a kind of brief rundown of the episode, we get a couple of different storylines. We have the storyline of the fact that this is the very first Thanksgiving with Lily and Marshall being a married couple. So they're having their very first Thanksgiving as a married couple. And we have Ted and Robin being broken up. And Robin's now dating an older guy who, has a little side joke where we see who the guy is. They're saying he's 40. And then we cut to what Ted perceives the guy to look like. And it's like an old man. So we have that running joke in the episode. We also have the fact that Barney is like being freaked out because Marshall put a countdown earlier in the season to the next slap. So there's like a whole slap bet storyline that pretty much follows the whole show through the whole run, where Marshall has all these slaps that he earned to slap Barney at any time throughout history. So we're on the third slap at this moment. And, we have a kind of little fun tension there. So not only that, we have that Ted and Robin can't be around each other anymore because they don't talk about, they're uncomfortable around each other. While they're making a pie for Thanksgiving, a little something happened. We'll just say Ted made the first move and Robin received the first move. That's weird. That's gross. So basically Ted made a move on Robin, and they end up getting down with it. Nope. And Ted and Robin end up hooking up while they're making the pies. So we have that tension going on right there. And then we have Barney being scared out of his mind that he's going to be slapped, and he's worried, he's freaking out, he's paranoid. And then Marshall's like, but you know what's going to happen, so why are you scared? He's like, because it could happen any moment now, Lily's upset because nobody's helping her cook and nobody's helping her bake, and she's angry about this and that, and it just chaos ensues. She finally breaks down and, makes Robin and Ted go and actually talk about their feelings and everything that's going on. She says the slap is off. There's no slapping at Thanksgiving anymore. Marshall's sad. Barney's all elated and happy that, woo, I'm not gonna get slapped now. And, by the end of the episode, everybody has made peace with it. And then Barney teasing Marshall about not being slapped. Lily says, slap back on, and Marshall's able to slap Barney. And then Marshall writes a song, you know, You've Been Slapped. Do, do, do. Oh my God. That's such a classic song from the show.
You just got slapped across the face, my friend. You just got slapped. Yes, that really.
That song was so damn catchy. I remember singing that song a lot after I heard it. And there's two different versions. You got the version from the episode, and then you got the version that they actually did like a nice, cool cover for. Shows you why the show had a great writing team. The songs they created were just like super memorable and so catchy too. And this song was produced by Jason Segel, who plays Marshall, and yeah, he does a great job. And we do see Jason Segel's other talents singing when he does in Forgetting Sarah Marshall and some other shows. So he can sing and he can put a song together. And man, it was so much fun. It was such a joyful episode. And it starts the slap giving special. We had two more after this, two more Slapsgivings. Next up on this list, an honorable mention, I would say, will be the Blitzgiving episode, where we have the guy who plays Hurley from Lost, and there are a lot of little cool inside jokes to Lost in that episode, a lot of fun little gags. But that'd probably be my next one. That'd be my like runner up if I didn't choose this episode as my favorite from the series. So this is such a fun one. How about you guys? Would you guys agree with me on this one? Are you fans of How I Met Your Mother? Did you like this episode? Do you think it represents a good Thanksgiving Day episode? Let me know in the comment section down below. All right, going on to the next show, we have going on 2013, we have the Goldbergs. Now this is called Stop Arguing and Start Thinking. This is from season 1, episode 9. This is the first of many Thanksgiving Day episodes that they had on the Goldbergs. And there are so many good episodes in this series for Thanksgiving. I couldn't decide. I just went with the first one, the true classic one. We have a couple of storylines that will actually play out throughout the rest of the series. So we have Murray and Marvin, his brother. We learned that Marvin is pretty much a get-rich type scheme guy. He's always trying to get rich to make money and always failing, and everything he tries to do, he just fails at it. And when this episode opens, we see him riding a DeLorean. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm making back money. I have a job, a 9-to-5 job. And Murray's just so proud of his brother at this point. And then we find out how he's making money. Basically, he's involved in a pyramid scheme, selling lotions. And he's actually trying to get Murray to buy into his pyramid scheme. And we have that going on. We have the fact that the DeLorean breaks down. And at this time, we also learned that this is when DeLorean, the car company, has gone out of business. And now the DeLorean is broken with the two doors like broken, standing up. It just chaos ensues there. We have Beverly trying to have a very peaceful Thanksgiving without any arguing going on, any conflict. So she makes the matters worse by telling Murray that his brother finally is no longer going to ask for any more money and giving up. And she gives Marvin the money to invest in his lotion business. And and then that all backfires at Thanksgiving. We also have Adam and Barry, the two boys. They're having issues too because, this is like the first Thanksgiving where they play this thing called, I can't forget the name of the game. They're playing a ball game downstairs in the basement. And Adam wins for the very first time. And now he's like gloating about it, like, I am the bigger brother. I am the champion kind of a thing. So Barry's really upset by this, and he's just pissed off and like, why this and why me? So that's all going on, and and you get your first glimpse of this family and how they are. This is a dysfunctional American family, but in the end of things, they all realize they are all meant to be together. This, I said, is like a classic Goldbergs episode. You have your chaos at the beginning, but by the end of the episode, they come to peace with everything. Like Adam said to Barry, you're my big brother. You'll always be my big brother. And same with Murray and Marvin. Murray's like, you're my little brother. I'm always so mad at you because I want you to have the best in life. I want you to have everything better, I know you can be better, and I know you will be one day. So it's so good, and it's just such a very much a heartfelt episode. The in conclusion Thanksgiving is my second favorite episode of the series for Thanksgiving Day episodes, and that one is just a great one too. So if you've never checked these out, I say you gotta watch the Goldbergs. This TV show is for the whole family. It is very heartfelt, very emotional, and some of the music in this is so great too. Yeah, songs in this series are just top peak. All right, let's get on to the next episode. From 2013, we have from the Big Bang Theory, we have season 7, episode 6, and this is called the Thanksgiving Decoupling. So here's a very random Thanksgiving Day episode they had in Big Bang Theory. They didn't have many of these. I think there's like 2 or 3 total out of the whole series, but this is like the very first one. So what the whole episode is revolving around is that we have Bernadette and Howard going to have Thanksgiving at Howard's house. Howard's mom is battling gout, so she can't help cook. So they have Raj cooking dinner for them. They have Bernadette's dad's with them too because Bernadette's mom's on a trip. So Bernadette's dad's having Thanksgiving with them. Bernadette's dad can't get along with Howard and thinks less of Howard, and then Sheldon doesn't want to be there at all. So and Amy's helping out with the cooking. So kind of good everybody's at. Then Penny and Leonard have this whole argument. And they're having this big old fight at Thanksgiving because we find out that Penny is actually married to Zach because when she was drunk in Vegas with Zach one year, they went to a chapel and got married by an Elvis impersonator, and she thought it was fake, and it turned out no, it'd be real. And then Leonard's all upset by this, and he's having a meltdown by this about this. It's just crazy and chaotic, and just a silly, goofy episode for Big Bang Theory. And you know what? It kind of gives you all the dynamics. This is the first time we learn more about Sheldon and his dad's relationship. And, we have a heartfelt moment between Sheldon and Bernadette's dad about, because Sheldon talks about losing his father when he was 14 years old and stuff like that. So we get a nice, good, heartfelt episode about that. We get Howard actually kind of standing up to his father in law to a degree, and then he gets belittled. We learn that Amy kind of likes drunk Sheldon, and Penny and Leonard, they get back together. But you know what? When rewatching these episodes, I realize how much he is very toxic in many times in this relationship, and you see his vulnerabilities come out a lot in the show, and it's really crazy to think about that when rewatching the show. I still like Big Bang Theory, still one of my favorite shows growing up, and yeah, but man, there are some times where I'm like, ooh. But you know what though? This is a nice, fun episode for Thanksgiving. And if you're watching anything on TV, this is a good one to put on. All right, so we're going to head on to the final Thanksgiving Day episode. Our final Thanksgiving Day episode is from 2014. It's Modern Family. It's 3 turkeys, and this is from season 6, episode 8. And here is, you know what? Classic Thanksgiving chaos. This sums up all the chaos that we've seen throughout all these other Thanksgiving Day episodes. We have 3 main storylines going on, and they're all intermingling. And actually, we have 4 storylines, maybe even 5. And these are all like mingling and are all intertwining with each other. So, like, we have Jay and Gloria, who are supposed to be in Colombia with their son Joe for Thanksgiving, but the flights are canceled, so they end up staying home, and they want to have a peaceful Thanksgiving. We have Cameron and Mitchell, who are having issues with Lily, their daughter, who doesn't want to dress up for Thanksgiving, so they have to try to figure out how to make her listen to them, basically, because she's not listening to them anymore. Then we have Phil and Luke, who have taken over the Thanksgiving duties, and Claire and Alex are basically having their backup Thanksgiving Day turkeys being made too. So just in case Phil doesn't get the actual Thanksgiving Day meal done. And then we have Manny and Haley, who are going on a trip to the store to get some more ingredients. And then hilarity ensues there too, because Manny is staying with the Dunphys, and he did laundry in their dryer, and all of their clothes are like stuck to his clothes. So throughout the episode, like random clothing comes out of his clothes. It's really funny. It leads to very awkward and weird moments in this episode. Anyways, basically what the whole episode is about, we find out that there are 3 turkeys being made. Okay, so what basically ends up happening, the chaotic part of the episode is that Claire ends up knocking out the power at the Dunphys' house, which causes them having to go back to Jay's house, her dad's, to have Thanksgiving. But Jay's supposed to be out of town, but they're there. So they have to sneak upstairs, and then they're ashamed that they're upstairs because they lied to their family that they were actually in Colombia, they weren't home, and oh my goodness, it's classic sitcom tropes here, you know? And I don't know, I like the sitcom tropes here. They are one of my favorites. It is essentially about family, you know, they're all upset, but they're all growing apart. Jade is like, I just want a peaceful Thanksgiving alone, and you guys are here so much. Claire is not trusting Phil being able to make the turkey, and Phil's like, yeah, I could. And Phil's also in love with his new AI app that he's using to cook with, which is weird storyline too, but pretty funny. And the end of things, they all realize that, you know, they're all getting older. There's only so many Thanksgivings left as a family they can have. So they all come to terms with it that this, you know, they're all gonna stay here and have Thanksgiving. And, you know, and it all wraps up nicely in a little bow at the end. And you know what? I like this one. This is a really good Thanksgiving Day episode. And if you're watching anything on Thanksgiving, I recommend you put this one on and watch it because, like I said, this is just a fun Thanksgiving Day episode. And it's classic. It's on par with all the different themes that we hear about on Thanksgiving, and just being thankful to be around family. So, with that being said, those are my 10 TV show episodes that are Thanksgiving Day based. What are your thoughts? Did you guys enjoy any of these episodes? Would you put any of these episodes on your top 10 list? What other TV show sitcoms would you add on this list? I know I left out a lot of them on my list because there are just so many to watch and so many to see. But let me know in the comments down below. What would be your favorite? How would your top 10 list of TV show episodes go? What are some of the ones I forgot and which ones should I have seen? So let me know in the comments down below. You know, if you really do enjoy episodes like this, let me know in the comments down below. I love doing a little list like this for you guys. And until next time, remember to hit the like, the subscribe, the notification bell. And until next time, guys, this is JD with a Figgy Pop Collector channel.
That concludes a Figgy Pop transmission.